It's on? Okay. Sorry. Welcome, everybody. This is a very special day for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. We are welcoming with gratitude and with real thanks the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sameh Shoukry, and Homeland Security Special Agent in Charge, Peter Fitzhugh, to repatriate an extraordinary artifact to its country of origin. Also with me from my office is Senior Trial Counsel Matt Bogdanis, who is the chief of the Antiquities Trafficking Unit, the first such unit of its kind in this country. Also with me is Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, who is the Chief Assistant District Attorney. And the Foreign Minister is joined by a number of his diplomatic colleagues, and we welcome you. It is wonderful to have you here. Now, the gold coffin, which I hope you will have a chance to see, is of Nejamonk, and it dates back to somewhere between 150 and 50 BC, where it was made of cartonnage, which is layers of plastered linen and papyrus, and fully gilded in Egypt. It's believed that this coffin once held the remains of Nejamonk, who was a high-ranking priest. Now, this coffin was actually buried in Egypt for more than 2,000 years until it was looted from Egypt in 2011. From there, in 2011, the coffin was illegally transported to a warehouse in Dubai and subsequently shipped to Germany for restoration and then went to France for sale. It finally arrived here in New York in 2017, where it was sold to the Metropolitan Museum of Art for approximately $4 million by a French dealer. Now, our office has been investigating this network for more than 7 years. And our investigation, with the support from our law enforcement colleagues in Egypt, in Germany, in France, and obviously here at HSI, remains active and very much ongoing. Thus far, our investigation has determined that this coffin is just one of hundreds of antiquities stolen by the same multinational trafficking ring. So you may well see a few more significant seizures of prominent antiquities in the months and years to come. Now, I'd like to reveal a little bit today about how our office was able to determine with HSI that this was a trafficked piece, in the hope that folks in the industry will take note and perhaps use the lessons learned in this case to better scrutinize their acquisitions. When our office's Antiquities Trafficking Unit launched its investigation, we followed the paper trail associated with the piece and found some glaring inconsistencies related to its sale. For instance, the item only appeared in the market in 2011 for the very first time in the aftermath of a massive geopolitical event, the Egyptian Revolution. This should have been a red flag. Secondly, by the time it arrived in Paris, this nearly 6-foot-long, 2,000-year-old artifact had never, in human history, previously been publicly documented or photographed. That's another red flag. Finally, we found that the documents used to authenticate the coffin had clearly been falsified. Export permits purportedly dated in May of 1971 bore the stamp, and I'm quoting, AR Egypt, standing for the Arab Republic. In May 1971, however, the Arab Republic did not yet exist. It was the United Arab Republic of Egypt. It did not become the Arab Republic until September of 1971. And Matt, I think the stamp, is that the stamp behind you,
yes,
Foreign Minister? And you can see that stamp, which reads AR Egypt on the board behind me. In other words, the permits had been stamped by a country that didn't actually exist at that time. This should have been another red flag. Nevertheless, the gold coffin was prominently displayed at the Met, serving as the centerpiece of its exhibition until it was recovered by our office's Antiquity Trafficking Unit in February as a result of this investigation. Now, in closing, it's, I think, very appropriate that we are here today demonstrating international unity and partnership at a time that the UN General Assembly is convening. Coming as we do from all over the world in New York, we New Yorkers place a strong value on cultural heritage, and our office vigorously protects it. Returning rare treasures to its countries from which they were stolen is at the core of our mission to stop the trafficking of stolen antiquities. Now, these items may be worth millions in the marketplace, but each item represents, in our view, much more than commercial property. Each item is a part of a cultural history that needs to be celebrated, respected, and vigorously protected, and enjoyed by the people of the country from where it was taken. And so today, we are honored to repatriate this remarkable item to the people of Egypt. And I would like to thank Assistant District Attorney Matthew Bogdanos and our entire Antiquities Trafficking Unit and our partners at HSI in New York for making this possible. I'd like to introduce now the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs, but I'd first like to say he has taken extraordinary lengths to come here today, and we are incredibly grateful. He had a meeting scheduled with his president, but he decided to come here to our office to receive this priceless object. And we welcome you as friends. We welcome you as partners in the fight against antiquities looting. And we hope that today will be just the first day of many other times that we are able to work together.
Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Cyrus Vance, New York County District Attorney. At the outset, let me assure you that when I told the President I was coming here, he was full-heartedly supportive of my buying here and wants to convey to you personally his thanks for the efforts that you have undertaken to repatriate this treasure that has been lost to us and now is regained. I want to congratulate both countries for the success in their relentless efforts that has resulted eventually in the repatriation of the coffin of the Egyptian priest Nejamank, and you pronounce it much better than I do, to its homeland. This success story is a fruitful result of the cooperation that has lasted over a year between the Egyptian authorities and the American authorities through the coordination between the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs in collaboration with the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities and the Prosecutor General of Egypt and the Office of the New York District Attorney. I have been keen when signing this protocol during the visit of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to New York to demonstrate the eagerness of the Egyptian government on the protection and preservation of our cultural heritage and our determination to continue our cooperation at the highest levels with our American partners to repatriate our national treasures that have been smuggled illegally out of the country. The Egyptian leadership has taken a responsibility of preserving the cultural heritage and antiquities of the nation. Therefore, the Egyptian president has issued the law number 91 that has strengthened the criminalization of trafficking in antiquities and introduced maximum penalties for trafficking, including lifetime imprisonment for smuggling antiquities outside of the country. The repatriation of the coffin magnifies the deepness of the bilateral relations that exist between our two countries, and it has resulted in the repatriation of hundreds of antiquities, including 123 Egyptian artifacts repatriated in 2015. Moreover, the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs and the U.S. Secretary of State concerning the imposition of import restrictions on archaeological material of Egypt in November 2016 has paved the way for a new high level of cooperation between the two countries regarding the repatriation of Egyptian antiquities to Egypt. It also opened the door for the countries to sign similar agreements with the United States to confront the phenomena of antiques illegal trafficking. Our cooperation with the New York District Attorney's Office has been fruitful during the last year. It was crowned by the repatriation of the ancient mummified parts of the human body in March of 2018. And today we are celebrating the return of one of our national treasures, which is the coffin that is displayed here today, and which has come as a result of our cooperation and relationship with the United States, which we highly value. Eventually, allow me to thank Mr. Cyrus Vance, New York District Attorney, his team, and all members of his Antiquities Trafficking Unit for the significant role in the investigation that has resulted in the return of the coffin to its homeland. And I'm confident that our future cooperation will result in the repatriation of any further treasures that may be found to have been exported illegally. I want to assure you that it is not the protection of our heritage, but it's the protection of mankind's heritage. This is not only for Egyptians, but this is for our common human heritage and our sense that we all share in the values, and we all are one of the same international family. So once again, I want to thank you, and I'm sure that many of you will have the opportunity of seeing this and many other wonders on the occasion of the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum in 2020. And this is again Egypt's contribution to its, not only its heritage, but that of humanity. And we will be happy to receive so many more of our Egyptian friends to visit and to enjoy all that Egypt has to offer. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, one of the rare pleasures of our job doing this work is for a period of time we were the home for this priceless artifacts, and we would sneak in and take a look.
I hope you didn't sell any tickets, though.
No, but it really, it is a magnificent work of art, and I hope everyone here takes the time to come up and look at this treasure before it goes back home. I'd like to welcome now HSI Special Agent in Charge, Peter Fitzhugh, to give remarks. And HSI is the core partner in our work in combating antiquities trafficking. And Peter, we're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Peter Fitzhugh, and I'm the Special Agent in Charge for HSI New York. It's quite a pleasure to be here today on this historic moment, this historic occasion. And I just want to acknowledge and thank our partners here today with the Manhattan District Attorney, Cyrus Vance Jr., and of course, the Egyptian's Minister of Affairs, Mr. Shukri. On behalf of Homeland Security Investigations, it gives me great pleasure to be part of this ceremony celebrating the return of the gilded coffin of priest Nejamonk to Egypt and the people of Egypt. The plundering of cultural property and antiquities is one of the oldest forms of organized transnational criminal crime, and it's one that can be funded and continue to fund illegal activities, including terrorism, as we've seen with ISIS. The relative ease of doing business through online markets at any time and any place has helped this type of theft become a global phenomenon. HSI dedicates significant resources to investigating and combating cultural theft. We are working to increase our global footprint to defeat this illicit activity. Earlier this month, we coordinated and held the first meeting of the virtual global Cultural Property Task Force. This task force is comprised of art and antiquity investigators from more than a dozen nations to help develop more in-depth trafficking and smuggling investigations. This global collaboration will help increase detection, seizure, and repatriations of looted and trafficked artifacts to their rightful owners. The initiation of this global task force employs HSI's existing relationship with the Manhattan D.A.'s office and other domestic partners, while also strengthening those partnerships abroad. HSI agents from around the world are committed to investigating those who pilfer nations' cultural property and returning those artifacts back to their homeland. We also want to send a clear message to looters, smugglers, and dealers to think twice before trying to profit from illicit cultural property in the United States or around the world. Here in New York City, HSI works closely with the Manhattan DA's office to bring international perpetrators of these crimes to justice. This partnership has proven to be successful in locating and returning artifacts that have long been missing to their home countries. These cases require patience and persistence making moments like this more meaningful and satisfying for all involved. We recognize that while cultural property, art, and antiquities are often assigned a dollar value in the marketplace, the culture and symbolic worth of this Egyptian treasure far surpasses any monetary value to the people of Egypt. It is their cultural currency. This ceremony is a fitting reminder that the rule of law protects country's heritage from being bought and sold for anyone's personal gain. This artifact belongs to the people of Egypt, and we are proud to help in its recovery and return so that future generations may study and admire it for the important place it has in Egypt's history. Excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We now happily take some on-topic questions. I'm going to ask Matt Bogdanos to come up because there may be questions only he can answer. But I also want to thank the Metropolitan Museum of Art for their willingness and partnership in making sure that this item was restored to the people of Egypt. Questions? Yes, sir.
Where is this headed now?
I think back to Egypt.
Yes. It's going back to Egypt. It will be received in Cairo airport by experts from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, and it will be, of course, totally reviewed for documentation, and then it will enter into the various storage facilities until it is displayed accordingly in one of our various museums. Other than the Grand Egyptian Museum that's going to be opening in 2020, there have been the erection of several other museums around and in Cairo. So I don't know particularly which museum this will host this exquisite piece, but it will certainly have a very prominent role in one of those museums.
Thank you. Yes, Shana.
Is there the possibility of criminal charges in connection to this? And also, approximately how much money did the office spend on this investigation?
On the first subject, it's a matter of active criminal investigation, not just by our office, but by the other countries that I identified as well, Germany, France, and Egypt. So I have no timeline on that, but it's under investigation, and we'll see how that investigation unfolds. In terms of the cost of this process, I don't have a dollar figure for you, Shana. Matt has a team of several non-lawyer specialists as well as several lawyers who assist. This is very labor-intensive work. Matt also tries the occasional homicide and other cases in between his work in this area. So they're busy not only with the antiquities work, but with other work at the office. But we feel that it's an important part of our job as a law enforcement agency to devote resources to combat art fraud and international art theft, in which New York so often is the marketplace for the thieves to come and sell their goods. So it is, I think it's part of the mission of this office. Certainly as an international office in a global city, this is exactly what we should be doing, and why I think the devotion of our resources in this area are very appropriate, and will continue to do that. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit as to how this was stolen, the process that went into it, how many people were involved in that, just that whole timeline?
I'll let Matt answer this question if I may.
Sure. Because it's an active investigation in 4 different countries, I'm not going to give you a whole lot of detail, but we became aware that this piece had been looted in Egypt, taken out of the ground in the end of October, beginning of November of 2011. After it left Egypt, it was smuggled across the border, and then it stayed in a warehouse in Dubai. From Dubai, it went to Germany, and this is obviously information we find out after the fact. It was restored in Germany, and then from Germany, after its restoration was complete, in partnership with a Paris dealer, the piece was then shipped to Paris and then sold to the Met.
And who stole it?
The individuals who stole it are individuals who are known to this office and to the Egyptian government.
Were they already in custody, or have they been taken into custody after this?
Yeah, we're getting into the area where I'm going to say that because it's an ongoing investigation, We can't answer those kind of detailed questions. I'm sorry.
If anyone's facing charges, would they likely face charges here or in another country?
It depends on where the jurisdiction is. If they committed there may well be charges or will be charges in multiple countries. Each country will conduct their own investigation.
Yes, Rebecca?
Yes. Do you have a sense of how you mentioned that this could lead to other, antiquities being returned in the coming months and years. Do you have a sense of how many or how much and how many countries as well?
I can answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because of the ongoing nature of the investigation and because of its international nature, we have executed various search warrants over the course of that investigation. Those search warrants have been executed both here and in other countries. As a result of those search warrants, we have received photographs, documents of other looted antiquities, and a lot. It's not an exaggeration to say hundreds. And the question then becomes tracking them down, finding where they are now. We know when they were looted, when they left the country, but where did they go?
And the office with HSI over the last 8 years has already returned a number of very priceless objects to a variety of countries. And so this has really been part of an ongoing process. Rebecca?
What happens to the money that the Met paid? Are they just out of pocket?
We don't think what.
Is there some sort of greater due diligence that they should do if the stamp was also available for them to evaluate that they didn't have this before purchasing it?
The amount paid by the Met for the object is, at this point, not something over which we are taking any position. If this advances to a stage where people are actually charged, there may be, that may come up in the future, but it's not something that we are really working on at this time. And I think the question you ask about due diligence is a very fair question. As I said, we're very grateful that the Met has been so cooperative in terms of getting this priceless object back to its historic owners. But I'm sure that there are lessons learned for the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and they can really speak for themselves on that issue. But we've identified some of the red flags that we saw, and that certainly with sophisticated institutions and art galleries and dealers, I think they're very sophisticated at knowing what questions to ask about provenance if they want to ask them. Yes, sir, in the middle. Okay, on the right.
Are there any other investigations ongoing now regarding other pieces belonging to Egypt?
Yes. Yes is the answer. I can't give you more than that, but the answer is yes. As part of the investigation into this trafficking ring, many of those photographs and documents that we have recovered are of Egyptian antiquities and Syrian antiquities and Iraqi and Libyan and Lebanese. Just keep going down the list. Jordanian.
Sir, in the middle.
On behalf of my people, I'm an Egyptian-American, American-Egyptian. I would like to thank the American government for making that happen. And my two questions, actually, I was here last year and we did the same thing with a hand, I think it was a piece that was found. And I wanted to ask two questions. One, how can we raise the awareness for people to solicit for such action, and if there's a hotline or a website or an email address people can reach out to where we can spread and dispatch over the media so people would know where to report these incidents. And the other part is, I noticed in the press release, this is a coalition between U.S., France, and Germany. And I was wondering if there are other countries are involved in smuggling or helping or looking the other way. Is there any way that we can get them involved in an agreement or something that we can cooperate and help the ground?
Well, I would say this and ask Peter to jump in. We have we have a very cooperative arrangements with the countries from whom these objects are looted. And we work daily, and as HSI does, with the Italians and the French and many of the countries in the Middle East. Peter?
Just to add, thank you, sir. This is a pretty common occurrence, and the question earlier about sort of global reach and cost, and that's one thing that HSI really brings to the table with 6,500 special agents and over 2,800 analysts located around the world in 63 different countries. We have that global reach where we can tap into those different countries, request information pretty seamlessly, get that back, and help further the investigations.
When Mr. Vance said that Homeland Security Investigations is one of our core partners, partners is a phrase we all bandy about, but it really has meaning here because without Homeland Security's ability to reach out into those countries, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. But I can't begin to stress what level of cooperation we have from source countries, from transit countries. It is almost as if there is a wave of enthusiasm that runs from Afghanistan and Pakistan through the Middle East and Europe and on to New York for finally stopping this.
I'm sorry, I don't want to give other people time, but would the investigation be only for the pieces that are found here or landing here, like and the stop between the U.S., or U.S. could be in the middle of the transaction, like somebody smuggled it from the U.S. somewhere else?
Well, I think our office would assist in any investigation that was initiated by Homeland Security if we were part of the transit of a stolen object. Just those countries abroad help us.
Yeah, through the course of the investigation, if we found that there was no real U.S. involvement, but two other countries, let's say, who were part of the virtual global task force, there was information that would be beneficial to their cultural heritage or property, we would share that information with those countries.
In the back row.
Something that happened at District Attorney's office set up this art crime squad. We've seen that the office has actually grown very rapidly in size. And is that a reflection on the size and scope of the problem that you see coming into New York?
I'd say yes, absolutely. I mean, the Antiquities unit was Matt Bogdanos for a number of years, and in order to follow the leads on valuable objects that were important to their countries, we simply needed to have more expertise, more lawyers, and that's what we've done. And I expect that the unit may grow as well. The more we can do, the more good things we are doing. And we think this, as I said to Shana, we think this is a really valuable part of what the New York County DA's office can bring to creating an honest marketplace for art in Manhattan.
And I should stress one other thing in addition to answer Deborah's question is we have the partnerships we have with Homeland Security, with Egypt, with countries around the world. We have that same level of partnership with institutions in New York. And I include the Met in that, who is always fully cooperative with everything we do. I include also many galleries and dealers, not all of them. I include auction houses, not all of them. And so that doesn't cost us a penny. Having that level of cooperation with the art and our antiquities community around the world doesn't cost us a thing, and we're able to leverage that, and we use those resources as well.
The foreign minister needs to get back to his real business of diplomacy and meet the president. But perhaps, is there any final question for the foreign minister before he leaves? And we'll end the conference. Yes, sir.
Well, I just have a couple more questions about this, two actually. One, is $4 million the fair market value for that, or did the Met get a deal? The other question I have was,
absolute deal. It's priceless.
well, yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, like, was it worth $10 million and they only got a deal for $4, for instance? But also, the people that stole this, were they duping people in Germany and France and Dubai, or were they all in on this as well before it even got to them?
Sure. There was the only duping was the law-abiding community. Everybody that I've described in this net trafficking network was actively complicit in getting, smuggling, restoring, and selling a knowingly looted piece.
It's only the Met then. They were the only ones.
We have to let the foreign minister leave. So we're going to do a signing ceremony here, but let me just say, Minister, this is a great day.
My pleasure.
I hope at some point in my life, I and others in my office get to come to the museum and see this in its home country.
We look forward to it.
Yes, 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 the switch. The switch.
Thank you so much. So now we switch.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Enjoy the piece.
So,
I've been to Cairo.
Bring the attorney. Just to be sure.
We'll be in touch. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love Cairo.
Most welcome.
Yeah, well, anytime we're ready for you.